All right, everyone, welcome to Open Stutter. I'm here today with our guest who will introduce himself shortly. My name is Samantha Wassilis, and I'm a speech language pathologist working with the Siskin Stuttering Center in McLean, Virginia.
Hey everyone, my name is Aidan Marshall-Cort. I'm a person who stutters, 25 years old, living in the Washington, D.C. area.
Thanks, Aiden. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
Aiden, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and where you are with that journey with stuttering right now.
Yeah, so as a person who stutters, I've stuttered since I was at the age of 4, the earliest that I can remember. My parents just told me that it just started happening out of nowhere, and they didn't really know what to do with it in regards to it. So they took me to a speech language pathologist when I was very young, and I just remember going into a new classroom every day and just doing some different works with them. And I've done that throughout my entire life growing up, from as early as I can remember until I was 18 years old. Growing up with a stutter came with a lot of challenges, of course, the whole developmental aspect of age and social challenges as well too. I faced a lot of different obstacles and difficulties during my journey, and from there it was a large piece of defining and shaping my experiences of life, and therefore who I am today. So, being a person who stutters, I've kind of come from a large background in regards to of different experiences I've had, maybe in dating, social life, work, and different aspects too. And I definitely think that is something that I have just carried a lot of experience with and have just worked towards my journey to today. Going to college, I faced many different challenges through that regards to presentation, still making friends, social aspects. And from there, I found Miss Siskin at the University of Maryland, College Park. And from there, discovered arts.
Yeah. So for those of our listeners who don't know, ARTS stands for Avoidance Reduction Therapy for Stuttering. So Aiden, you've been in group therapy for a while now. Can you tell us a little bit on how this has been different, maybe from things you've worked on previously, and how your experience has been in arts?
Yeah, of course. So I first started off in speech therapy throughout my entire life, as I just mentioned, and it was a lot of fluency shaping. So in regards to that, it was really practice and work on how to shape yourself to be fluent and really work on eliminating different aspects of your stutter. And when it came to going to arts was a really different approach to regards to really learning to have an acceptance phase of it, and therefore being comfortable being a person who stutters as well too. So it was very different from my entire life growing up, to where I really was being taught and ingrained in different breath work, easy onsets, things that kind of really encapsulate trying to be a fluent individual in a fluent world. And going to arts for the very first time was a new experience because it was my first time being another person who stuttered, and two, it was also an instance where I was in a group environment as well, so a bit different than a one-on-one setting, having that sort of support, and also assignments and tasks on showing your stutter. And that definitely was something that was a new curve for me and myself. And in regards to that, it was a large piece of wanting to really shape what my stutter is to me and in my life as well too. So when it came to arts, a lot of the assignments first was really understanding what my pattern was. Oh, and also on the mental side, really working on how I viewed my stutter as well too. When it came to working with other people who stutter alongside me and realizing different patterns, different experiences, it also was a very interesting way of really seeing those who had different life experiences, how they were similar, how they were different, but overall how your stutter is something that really defines and shapes your life experiences. And I think through arts, it was something that very much so in intertwined with different aspects of my life in regards to dating and work, finding a job. What am I going to do when it comes to making phone calls, presentations, leading meetings, or however, or the social life of making friends, dating, going out to parties, meeting new people, all of those things. I think arts really did a great job of giving me different assignments and things to focus on one by one, that my speech pathology experience growing up did not really target, more to where it was just focusing on eliminating different patterns I had of stuttering, while arts was more of trying to eliminate struggle in my stuttering. So trying to not eliminate those tricks that potentially were trying to make me be more fluent, but more of eliminating tricks that would create struggle in that case too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit, Aiden, what an assignment looked like for you, or what's something, a few different targets that you worked on through your arch journey?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of different assignments and targets I've had really revolved around first understanding my speech pattern. And the biggest one I've had was my interjections. So saying a lot of likes to kind of transition between words very smoothly. And those were examples of tricks where I would use those to eliminate my true stutter and what my stutter looked like. So if I knew I was going to block on a word or repeat on a word or phrase too, I would use different interjections to try to help smooth and ease into those. And that's a really big one I've been working on throughout my past couple years almost with you, Sam, actually.
Hmm.
And it's been an absolutely wonderful experience, really trying to work on that pattern of going into a stutter without struggle as well. Another one was staying on the sound with my blocks. Blocks were a really huge fear of mine in regards to any sort of social situations because I was very afraid on showing that ugliness of stutter, as I always called it, or that where I would make other people uncomfortable by experiencing a block. And I would always do my best to just force myself through it rather than trying to get onto sound. So an assignment of this would, if I'm approaching a word where I know I'm going to block on or I'm going to have difficulty with, going straight for it and sticking to the sound and staying on it until I get through that block as well.
Wow. Great example. So taking away some of those learned escape behaviors as kind of that starting point, and then going for the open stutter and maybe needing to do a little work with increasing that sound because you had such habits of blocking and holding back. Um, what about the mental side of stuttering? We're talking all about motor targets right now. Tell us a little bit about maybe that those aspects. I know you love to talk about mental health, but also a little bit about some assignments related to that.
Yeah, of course. So, as you know, mental health is a really big aspect of my advocacy that I work for in regards to my job, my day-to-day, or being in the stuttering community. And in regards to my mental health, I'm very open with it, diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and it very much so intertwines with my stuttering in regards with all the work that I've done to really come to that acceptance piece. And I think that when it comes to having depression, a lot of it is tied into my self-worth, and a lot of it is tied into how I view my stutter in that regard and how I sometimes have used that as blaming it for missed opportunities or believing that I'm not good enough because of it and things such as that. And these assignments have helped me really build a confidence and really a big key aspect on understanding that this stutter is a part of me, it's something I shouldn't be ashamed of, and that I should show it more because my stutter can be at times something that I can utilize in certain situations to where in regards to being patient, empathy, things such as that. And I think in regards to my mental health, it has been a journey with it. Uh, not all days are easy. Progress isn't completely a linear step. Some days are a bit more difficult than others. And I think when it comes to intertwine my mental health with my stutter, definitely there's days where I go out and I have assignments and tasks, and maybe I decide to skip and avoid them or produce some escape behaviors, or even as I say, I'll quote unquote mess up sometimes. And
Hmm.
it's really important to know that when it comes to progress, you will have those setbacks, and it really matters on how you come back from them too. With my depression, it's really a large key piece of that not feeling good enough aspect, and me always intertwining that with having a speech impediment. And having that was something that was a really large process of understanding my own self-worth, my self-value, my self-efficacy too. And definitely with comes to my art studies and practices for my assignments, it's a lot of learning that it's okay to stutter and it's okay to show something that you may have felt ashamed of for a long time or guilty of for a long time too.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Lots of great stuff, Aiden. I'm curious, and I'm sure our listeners are, how has your journey to becoming more accepting of your stuttering impacted in either direction your mental health? Have you noticed any changes?
Yeah, so this is one thing that Vivian herself is always wanting me to sometimes talk about is my first reactions of going to arts, for example. Growing up, being a person who stutters and never actually meeting another person who stuttered till I was much older, it's something that definitely is, I carried a lot of shame and guilt in it because I was only surrounded by people or only ever had experience with people who were fluent. And my only depictions of individuals who stuttered were through media or some sort of literature where those individuals were sometimes mocked or made fun of, or just some sort of piece in it that was a moving plot in regards to maybe them causing problems or issues. And that was very difficult growing up as a child to always read or see because it's something that really defined myself and my worth of, oh, this is just a problem pretty much. And this is something that I should not do. And coinciding that with all my speech pathology of that time of grad of grade school. Sorry, something my throat there. of of grade school and of those years growing up to the end of high school, it was definitely a large piece of determining my self-worth and the value that I saw in myself. And when it came to that, my first experience of going to group therapy was actually a pretty internally negative one because it was a place where it was being said that it's okay to stutter and going your whole life thinking, wow, this it's not okay to stutter. You know, you are seeing in different ways of life that it's something that is pushed back on, made fun of, things like that. And when you come to a place to where you're taught that this piece of you is okay and that it is fine, it produced a very emotional response in me, one that I look back on this day because it showed a lot of progress from where I was to where I am now. And one, because I'm seeing people do something that I very much so tried to hide, to push away, to blanket. And whenever I did show it, I just felt maybe shame and guilt. And seeing others do that was a very, very difficult process at first, but that's kind of what your comfort zone is. It's really seeing that out of comfort zone experience and going into that growth zone of where you really see the value in it as well. And of course, it was hard. It was a large adjustment, but once I felt more comfortable and kind of understood that it's okay, it's a big piece of acceptance, is a large portion of how it ties into my mental health of, you know, it's okay to really show this, and it doesn't determine your self-worth, your value, who you are, what you're capable of being or doing, and showed that I'm a lot more than what my stutter is. It doesn't define me. Of course, it shapes some life experiences that I've had, but I'm very, very so grateful on showing that through all those challenges and those times I've had, my depression, my anxiety, of course, will be there. And very similar to how I have said that my stutter doesn't define me, or that it doesn't, you know, it's not a huge representation of me. Same for my mental health as well. It is, I used to say at the same time that I suffer from depression and anxiety. I now say that I live with depression and anxiety. And it's a very, very small change in that word or verbiage, but it really says a lot that, you know, this doesn't control me, this doesn't take over me. And it's something that I'm very, very proud of having that life change and growth with arts as well, to where I came in thinking that my stutter was a huge, huge hindrance in my life, a huge obstacle, something that would make me miss so much opportunities. And I saw the same thing in my mental health, my depression, my anxiety, and learning to reshape that and understand that it's okay, you are human. You're gonna have obstacles, things in life and such, and learning how to really utilize that in a way that doesn't make you feel worse, make you feel less capable than uh, others. But of course, being realistic and that acceptance piece is a really huge portion of it. And I want to say that arts has been an absolutely wonderful time with that. Yeah.
Yeah, Aiden touched on a lot of great things. I'm really glad you talked to Cotton about the initial um, reactions when you first entered an arts group, because often it is shocking and you are coming somewhere for support and you're not really sure what that support is going to look like because you've been given it in a different way for so long. Can you tell us a little bit about like what kept you coming back? Because I think it could be a scary moment where people may run the other way. What kept you coming back?
Yeah, of course. It was something where when I first started, Mrs. can always tell you that I was always then sometimes making excuses for maybe missing group or such. And what kept me coming back was definitely the community aspect, I want to say. It was something to where even though my initial reaction was very strong and could be thought of as negative as too, it was also very emotional in the sense that I got my entire life really being alone with my stutter, and now being in a space where people could in the first instance relate to an experience, relate to a problem you've had, relate to your own viewpoint perspective as well. It was a very key piece in me really wanting to be like, hey, you found people that you have a community with and understand you and can support you. It's definitely a tough piece and definitely a tough transition as well too, and truly understanding and having a great understanding of what comfort zones are, where you have your comfort zone, outer comfort zone, and then your growth zone as well too was a big piece of it that is going to take some time through this transition. And growth never always growth never starts in that comfort zone space. Sometimes you have to go out and really face yourself and what you've been internalizing for so long. Growing up with this level of indoctrination of self-loathing and self-hate when it comes to seeing my stutter go on and affect how I may have been bullied or teased more because of it, or maybe I had missed a job or didn't ask that girl out, or however because of it, and going to a place to where people are telling you that, those things are happen and it sucks, but learning to accept it as well too, and learn to living with it was a really key piece. And even though it was a tough transition at the very start, I did understand the message of it. I did understand the importance of it. And of course, I think that community aspects in the group was a big reason why I came back, a big reason why I loved coming and seeing others and just those who understood my experiences as well too. And of course the SLPs were great as well. They did an awesome job caring for me and reaching out and checking in and seeing how I was doing. That was a really big piece of it too, because it showed that you had people that cared and understood how tough it was. And with the people in group, some of those individuals had been there for a really long time. Some people were new like me, and they all understood that it would be a difficult transition and difficult process to really transform into and understand. But definitely I think one of the probably the most best decision I've ever made in my life was sticking with it and going back, because it was finding that community, finding that space, something that I think is the most invaluable thing ever. It's something that I can't put a price on. It's something that really transformed my life, and I would definitely say is I would not be here without it. It's really changed a lot of my life goals, aspects, mental health, because it showed what I was capable of. It showed that I had a higher self-efficacy than I thought I did.
Yeah. And I think Aiden too, it's great to hear your transformation and experience your transformation, because now in group you are that motivator, you're that role model, you're doing a lot of advocacy, you're doing a lot of outreach. So tell us a little bit about kind of some of the work you're doing and why.
Yeah, of course. So this is a big piece of what I do now that I'm really happy and excited about. And I'm hoping now maybe one day I go back to this interview and I'm like, I've done so much more since then as well.
Yeah.
And
I
so
know I
a
know that will
large
happen. I know that will be there.
a really large piece of it is truly understanding that a lot of what I do is pretty much really coinciding with how I felt growing up as well. Being alone, isolated, not really having a role model or a sense of understanding of what my stutter would look like in the future, and therefore just thinking that it was just a large limiting factor as well too. I think the biggest one was growing up while being Black and a person who stuttered. I didn't have these multiple identities to juggle as well. And when it comes to the experiences that I've had growing up as well, in regards to being a person of color and being a person who is neurodiverse, and all these are things that I can label myself as, not having someone there to really be that role model, or someone that could really be that huge factor in understanding that you are capable and more than just what your label is and such. So a lot of what I do now, I actually work for the National Stuttering Association. I work on a few different committees there under the young adult committee, the special projects committee as well. And I love what I do, reaching out and providing resources for young adults throughout the country, and a space for them to really talk and communicate and connect as well too, through virtual calls, through different events that can be happening in their area as well. And even when it comes to the national conference this year, I'm doing a few speaking events for some workshops with another young adult committee member, and I'm really excited to take that and do more through all of my experiences as well too. When it comes to the more connections I make, maybe speaking on panels or being reached out to by different SLPs and teachers who want an individual who truly looks like and understands their students. That's probably been the most precious one that I've been doing recently, is reaching out and talking to different students or individuals of color, regardless of age, from elementary school all the way to high school to college, and being that mentor, being that voice to show, hey, this is me at this age, and I'm happy in my life and happy in my skin, but also happy with the way I talk too. I think that's probably the biggest piece of knowing that, because growing up, I didn't know if I would be happy in my skin or happy with the way I talk, or happy with all these other things too. And when I hop on those Zoom calls or see those individuals and their faces light up, that's what makes life worth it to me. That's what makes me love what this advocacy that I do too. It's a large motivating factor in caring for those people that I love, caring for those people that, even though I may not know, they're human beings themselves, and it's a really valuable experience themselves to have that, to have someone of reference, and to have someone that can tell you that, hey, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be so worth it in the end to keep going too.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your advocacy. And I know that many other people will be able to access this video and hopefully learn a little bit from you, Aidan. Just to kind of wrap up, do you have any words of wisdom, encouragement messages for people who may be a younger Aidan at this time?
Yeah, so my absolute biggest one that I give in regards to whenever I do sorts of advocacy or words of advice or motivation is my always talk on what courage is. And because having a stutter, to a lot of young individuals, or just different individuals of different ages, is always having this really large obstacle in your way, and maybe preventing you from different opportunities, maybe preventing you from different experiences as well. And a large piece of this is, I always kind of come back to what courage is, to where the definition of courage is not necessarily the absence of fear, not the absence of that obstacle or what's holding you back, that hinders or limiting factor, but it's really understanding that past that obstacle is something worth more than it. It's something worth fighting for, something worth pushing for. And in this regards, my stutter was always a big thing that I would put on blame for those missed opportunities and missed experiences. And knowing that on the other side was experiences, love, job opportunities, social experiences, just things like that, that was worth it, and making life truly what I wanted, that I knew was what I had to start channeling, was that level of courage. Knowing that the fear will always be there, but knowing that there is something greater past it. And that's what my words of wisdom always are when it comes to anything in regards to stuttering, mental health as well. It's going to be hard. Having hard days is a part of it, but knowing how to get back from those as well. My last words of wisdom is in regards to mental health and not really knowing how to get out of those rough days too. I always give a big recommendation of collecting things in your life that may not seem important now, or may make you feel good just in that moment, and saving them. My biggest thing that I always kind of share is that, for me, I have a desk, and I have one drawer in that desk where I save every note of appreciation, love, birthdays, however, because something that I can look back to and just smile. And knowing that you are loved and cared for and appreciated by those in your life is a big piece of knowing that life is going to be hard, and it's going to be worth it in the end, fighting through always. Thank you.
I love that, Aidan. And I know I'm inspired. I'm sure our listeners are after that. Thank you for opening up, being vulnerable, and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Sam. This was an awesome opportunity, and I'm excited to continue doing more advocacy in this way.
Yes, let's have you back in a few years and we'll see all the progress you've made.
That'd be awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Bye.